Scott Major joins us, nationally renowned attorney, to talk a little bit about, there's some lawsuits coming in Hurricane Sandy damage. Insurance is having some difficulty deciding what to do in certain cases, and the folks who hold the policies don't like it. Scott, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Is this common when you have a big storm like this? People file claims and the insurance companies say, we don't want to pay that.
Yes, absolutely. In almost every storm that I've seen over the dozens of storms over these years, it's amazing how, unfortunately, insurance companies don't pay claims.
What is the problem, and why do they claim that they don't owe the money?
Well, most of it is, insurance companies are in the business of collecting premiums, and they're not necessarily in the business of paying money. And so, the shareholder or the individual person who's looking at the insurance company wants that insurance company to do well. And so insurance companies are not happy about paying. In terms of proving damages, it's hard for individuals to prove damages without having engineers and other experts and special kind of documentation. And the insurance company knows that you don't know how to process your claim, and they take advantage of that. It's tragic, but I see it all the time.
It's funny because I remember the experience I had the one time I had to deal with this Hurricane Alicia back in Houston back in the 80s. I watched my parents deal with this. We had some house damage, and the guy from the insurance company, he came, knocked on the door, said hi, and they showed him the damage. He wrote a check right there on the spot and moved to the next house.
Yeah,
what's changed?
A pipe dream now. You just don't see that, and it's unfortunate, but the headache and heartache that people are going through is nightmarish. When you see how many people haven't been paid, and you see how much damage there is so obvious and so necessary, it is really troubling. You also have problems with people who didn't get enough insurance or weren't educated properly, and so they don't have the kind of coverage they thought they had.
Well, tell me about some of the problems. For example, if you go to company X and they say, I'm sorry, we can't pay that because, and here's the reason, what kind of reasons are they giving people?
Well, what reasons they're giving is the flood insurance people will say it's a wind event. The wind insurance people will say it's a flood event. And so you're fighting on what was the cause of your damage. Was your damage caused by flood water, or was it caused by a wind event that created an opening where water got in? And in these situations, people don't realize that just because this involved a lot of water, that it's not just a flood event. It is a big wind event, and thousands and thousands of people are unaware of this. And when you think about it, you think your windows aren't broken because they don't have a hole in them, and people don't realize that we have 90-mile-an-hour winds moving back and forth on these windows. A large majority of the windows are destroyed. They're not. It's like taking a paperclip and bending it 5 times and then using it. It'll keep working, but then after a while, it's going to fail.
Yeah, that's one of the issues I've heard about in other storms as well. Was it a wind event or a water event? When in reality, it was both.
Yeah, think about it. You're an individual. How do you know the difference? And you're not an engineer, and you don't even know what that wind event means. You just assume if you have water in your house that it must have something to do with water, and that's why I tell citizens everybody's got to go out and get a really good engineer or a really good lawyer, public adjuster that can aggressively pursue your claim and has experience in this. In the Northeast, they haven't had hurricanes before, so most people don't know how to process these claims, and tragically, the insurance companies are leveraging that to their benefit.
All right, now let me ask you regarding a policy. If you're out looking for a policy and you want to make sure that you do have this little technical base covered, what do you tell the agent who's handling this? What do you purchase?
You make sure that when you get homeowners coverage, you make sure that you got full coverage for replacement of your entire home. How much will it cost if your home is destroyed to replace it? You want to get contents coverage that's sufficient to cover the things that are in your house. If you have pieces of art or you have very expensive clothing, you can buy insurance policies coverage for that. You want to make sure you don't chimp on that, and then all of a sudden later on you're complaining about it. You want to make sure if you have other structures, sheds and patio furniture and other types of things, that you get coverage for that. All these things will be covered, and it's really not that much more money than you're paying. When you're in a flood zone, you have to realize that some insurance companies, aren't going to insure there, and you might have to get flood insurance through the National Flood Insurance Program. You should always try to get more insurance if you can on top of that.
I've always been curious, if your house gets blown away in a tornado or a hurricane and you go back and you have replacement cost, how do they know what the replacement cost is going to be?
Well, there's a lot of debate about that. It's an excellent point about what does it cost to rebuild a home, and what the differing views are dramatic. The reality is, how much would it cost, if you had two estimates, would it cost to rebuild your house? And that's what it is. Now, insurance companies aren't going to necessarily pay you that. They're always going to offer less money than the entire amount. We see this all the time because what they do is they give pricing based on, rebuilding an entire shopping center or rebuilding an entire set of buildings instead of a home. So the piece of wood that they're pricing at $1 a square foot is really $8 a square foot when you buy it.
Now, I'm always curious as well, when the house is gone, how do you describe to them what the house looks like to have them rebuild it? I don't have blueprints.
Yeah, it's amazing. And what you have to do is, that's why you lean back on the insurance company. When they insured your property, they did an inspection, or they're presumed to do an inspection. And you got insured for that property, and if you have replacement cost coverage and your property is destroyed, then whatever it costs you to rebuild that house, in whatever format it is, they have to pay it. And that's the whole point about making sure you have enough coverage and that you've told your insurance agent, hey, I need to get full coverage. I need to make sure I have that.
All right, Scott, you have a website real quick?
StormHelpTeam.org.
All right, StormHelpTeam.org. Scott Major with us. Thank you, Scott. Good to talk to you.
Hey, have a great day, pal.
All right, you too. Coming up on America's Radio News, being in the